Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
And hi there, and welcome. It's me, Regan, and I'm joined here by Robbie. Robbie, we're starting with this Sunday show, a Regan and Robbie show. It's great to be with you again, Robbie.
It's brilliant to be with you. Obviously, still feel quite annoyed after that result earlier on, but good to join you for the show.
Aye, because obviously you're from the St Mirren perspective, so it's great to have you on. You're obviously at St Mirren Park, um, and you've seen it firsthand. But I watched the game on the TV set this morning, Robbie. I thought Celtic totally dominated the match. Felt they were great. So it was just it was great to watch from Scottish football point of view, but obviously it wasn't good for you watching it. What did you make of the match?
Yeah, I think listening to Robertson when I managed to catch a bit of his interview in the house, we didn't do the simple things right. I think that's probably the biggest thing to take away for the match. We've looked so little lack of confidence. I think when the team sheet came out and I seen Phillips was starting, I thought it was only a positive thing for us. And I need to give credit to a few players. Ellery Balcom, the goalkeeper, I thought he kept it from being a silly number. Richard Taylor at the back as well. I thought his defensive duties today were absolutely outstanding. And then the new boy Phillips, to come into a game against Celtic where, it's not easy to make your debut against that type of quality. But I thought he really stood out in the midfield, and I actually thought there was a lot of changes that were going to get made at half time. But he only made two, and I think with the way the game went, the second half, we looked a lot better. But there's still a lot of stuff we need to work on, and for the big game next week, like being at Dens Park, we've not got much time to do it. But I think today, Celtic, you need to give full credit to them. They made it look so comfortable and so easy, so many good players. Obviously, I'm sure we'll speak about the news a bit O'Reilly later, but I thought, when you miss a player like that, that's when you need to capitalise. We just didn't, and that shows you how good the Celtic depth is, that another midfielder can come into the team and just look as comfortable as O'Reilly would.
I want to ask you this, Robbie, because I bet you Robinson's team talk, Robbie, was stay in the game early on and try and be compact and stay physical. And then when you lose a goal so early on, it must just be so annoying.
Aye, I suppose the game plan sort of nearly goes out the window at that point. You go 1-0 down to a strike, which, by the way, I will say, I know it was a good hit for McGregor, but I argue Balcom should probably do better. I think he watched that back and knows he should have done better with the strike. But no, I think when you concede that early against any of the Glasgow two, it's always going to be tough to build your way back into the game. And I suppose that's, that's a quality difference there. Celtic can go up in the first 5 minutes and cause you sorts of problems and get an early goal, but it's hard enough to defend Celtic when you're playing at your best, never mind when they're playing at their best. And I thought Celtic, look, I don't think Celtic were particularly great today. They never really left second gear. It was a really, really cool, calm and collected performance for everybody in the park. I don't remember Schmeichel having too much to do, but just that's the Celtic that you get, and that's the Celtic that can cause you all sorts of problems, I suppose.
I think as well a great point you made there about Schmeichel. He's not only made a save so far in his time in Scottish football, Robbie.
He's got to be loving it up here. He's came in to a team that's, obviously when we get further into the season, Celtic start playing in Europe, he'll probably get tested a lot more. But so far he's had an easy run at it, and he'll probably hoping that continues because that shows you how good that Celtic defence is. That he's not really getting tested, and I don't think again he get tested today. I think Jaden Brown had one shot on him, and that was really all he had to do for the game.
Yeah, and obviously, Robbie, we are live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. So everybody, please send in your comments if you want to talk about the Celtic match or talk about any other match that's happening. Obviously, I'm keeping an eye on Motherwell against the Jam Tarts. So that'll be a great game. Robbie obviously has been looking to bounce back from their sore 1-0 defeat on during the week.
Yeah, I mean, for Hearts, it's a weird one. I've seen again today, they're most likely playing a three at the back again. When all games, especially his point of view on playing that sort of three back. I don't think he was too big a fan of it, but I thought Hearts get quite unlucky on Thursday, but I didn't get to watch the match. But for what I've seen, I mean, I think Shankland had a few chances and it's only a positive. I mean, at least they kept the scoreline down. I'm sure we'll talk about Kilmarnock in their match later, but for Hearts, they've gave themselves a real chance here at home. But Tynecastle, anything can happen. So they've got to be confident that next week they can go and win the game. But obviously, all eyes are on today. They need to get the job done because it's not been a great start of the season for Hearts at all. And obviously, you're taking a Motherwell team that are, they are decent start of the season. So it's going to be a tough game for them, but they need to try and get the 3 points today.
Yeah, obviously, any Motherwell or Hearts fans in the chat, we will keep you up to date on the match, so you don't need to go anywhere. But Robbie, I want to ask you about your own team. In terms of, it's a big week. Friday is transfer deadline day. We'll be on the locker room. Do you expect us to be talking about the fact that you guys have brought in a few players, or what are you thinking?
I mean, I'd hope so. I hope we at least make one more signing. I think with the business that Robinson's done, it's been very smart. He's not just run out and signed a player for the sake of signing them. He's really scouted down and picked a good selection of players, and I think it will only take time for them to properly gel together. I mean, there's been multiple times where managers come in. It happened to Robinson when he first came in. I believe Robinson went on an 8-game without a win run when he first came into the job. So managers go through tough times all the time, and for what I've seen on Twitter so far, some of the reactions have been quite poor. And I'm not one to try and lose the head too easily because it is only at the start of the season. If you look at the teams we've played, I mean, we've played Celtic, Hibs, and Aberdeen. That's a really, really tough start. So I think one more signing, I think I'd be happy with. I feel like we need another attacking option. When we get into the final third, we just look so lost in that attacking area, and I think Olasanya, Mandro, and Nyunga really need help. So I think one more signing would only do us a world of good, and hopefully it's an attacker.
I was going to ask you, is there anybody you've got in mind that plays in Scotland or down in England that you think would possibly fit in?
With the links that I've seen, I mean, the obvious one, it looks like it's going to be Kevin Van Veen that's potentially might be making a move here. That's just links. I don't know if there's any truth in it, but I don't know if there's anybody that I really have my eye on particularly. I mean, I fully trust Robinson that if he does say bring a guy in, so maybe League One, League Two in England, that he will work in the team. But there's no really anyone that I've got my eye on. It's more just, I feel like we do need that one more attacking option in the team.
I want to go back to the match today because I've heard a lot of things about Matt O'Reilly leaving and possibly Rio as well. But what a goal it was from him to score today. It was great. Celtic were in cruise control in that match, but then Rio attacked, just put the icing on the cake, scored that great goal, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, like all the Celtic goals, I think were good goals in their own right. I mean, if we go through them, McGregor's brilliant strike foot outside the box. The goalkeeper could have done better, but that's the quality that McGregor now has. You look at Hitate's goal, I mean, it's just so well worked. I think I said this at the time, but it's so easy to slide through. It's almost like putting a hot knife through butter. I mean, they just pick small little passes out, and Hitate managed to find his way through, and it's a lovely finish at the bottom right. I think it came off the post. Then, if you look at the third goal, I mean, at 2-0, if we get a goal, there's always a chance to sneak a point. But Alistair Johnson really finishes the game off with, yet again, some more brilliant passing and movements for Celtic. I literally get the best view of it. I thought it was right in front of me, and I just seen Alistair Johnson stick the ball into the top corner, and that is when I just gave up. But I think that Celtic has so much quality, and obviously losing O'Reilly is a big miss. But I believe Rodgers said after the game, they're looking to get another body in this week that is a direct replacement for O'Reilly. I've got no idea who that could be, but but Celtic now have that money where they need to go and spend it, and they need to spend it good because that Champions League run is going to be horrible for them if they go into it with the squad that they've currently got.
I think they'll be looking at probably 4 players, Robbie. I think you'll be looking at a left back, a centre back, because like a Bielka will go. You've already got Kobayashi's away. So you're probably looking at a centre back, a left back, because I love Greg Taylor, but he needs competition as well, and he needs someone to help him.
I think the left back's the big one. I mean, Taylor again today. I thought it looked okay. I mean, again, it wasn't like I don't know how it felt on the TV, but it didn't really feel like Celtic were anything too good. They were just sort of passing it around nicely, and it almost did feel like a training session for Celtic. That's how it felt watching it. It just felt like they were so calmly passing and moving, and I feel like that's maybe how it was picked up on the TV.
Yeah, it just felt as if Celtic didn't really break us away, Robbie. That's the way I would phrase it. Sorry for you to hear that, but that's the way I would phrase it. I want to ask you about St Mirren. Obviously, Stephen Robinson's doing a great job. He's went out of Europe now, so is everyone getting a kind of reality check and hoping that you can get back into Europe this time next season?
Yeah, I mean, as I spoke about earlier, I think a lot of fans' reactions have been a bit harsh so far. If you look at the games we've played, no game's been easy, maybe bar the Villa home time, and even that wasn't easy. I mean, you just need to look at Hibs, Celtic, and Aberdeen to realise how tough a start of the season it has been. And, for people to already be, going after this player or that player, we need to give them time. And there's every game's a tough game, no doubt about that. But the fixtures are only getting tougher now. I mean, Dundee, you look, we've got Hearts, we play Dundee United, St Johnstone at some point as well. So they're all tough games, and it's only getting harder for us. And I think this is sort of the time where it's really going to see what we're made of, because Robinson, he's built this team now. If any of these signings don't work out, it all comes down to him and his recruitment. And I think he's been so solid in his recruitment so far that you don't expect a Robinson signing not to work, and I think that just shows how good a job he's done. But I worry that it's always too early to talk about things. But if we get a bad run of results in the next sort of 3-4 matches, we could find ourselves really struggling this season, and it's not what you want after such a good season. So I think we should try to push back up into that European spot, because I do believe that we have the quality for it. But it's just going to take a bit of time for the squad to do it together and really get the results going.
Yeah, I don't know if you could tell at the match today, but Steve Clark was there again today. Do you think he's possibly looking at somebody from St Mirren, or might it be somebody from Celtic again? Because
it's probably. Who at Celtic could it be? If you look at St Mirren, the only real contender, and he's still a million miles away, is probably Mark O'Hara. That's probably the only one that you could see potentially getting into the Scotland team. So I don't know why he was there, because I couldn't really think of any Celtic players unless he was hoping Anthony Ralston done something good. But no, that's a weird one for me, because I don't really know why he chose St Mirren Celtic, but fair enough. I mean, if he has his eye on O'Hara, more than happy to have him in the international team. I think it'd be brilliant for us. But I suppose it's probably just a Celtic player.
yeah, he's saying the big boys are harmful, but they don't know how to play with each other.
Yeah, I think he's talking about Mandron and Ayunga and stuff when they're up there. Look, I think I said it earlier in the show that I think we need another striker in the door. There's no doubt that they're starting to struggle up top now, and I hope James Scott maybe comes into a game, but I definitely feel like we need one more attacking option up there.
Yeah, I want to speak to you about the rest of the weekend's action, but before I do that, what do you make of the Matt O'Reilly deal? They're talking 25 up front, but a 30 million package.
Yeah, I think that's a good deal. I think we spoke about it last week on this Sunday show that if teams can stand firm and get the deal that they want, then for all sides do it. That's a brilliant bit of business for Celtic. That's a 20 to 30 million in the bank, and it's money that they need to spend if they want to be competing in the Champions League. So it's only good for Celtic. I think if you look at the whole Scottish football as well, I think it also helps us. We've had 2 deals now in the sort of week where Miovski's gone to Spain for about 6 million, and now O'Reilly's going off to the Premier League for 20 to 30. So it's only getting better for Scottish football, and I'm glad the clubs, as we said, are starting to take a bit more, be a bit more fun with it, and really demand the prices that they want for the players.
Yeah, so here at Fir Park, it's 0-0, still after 14 minutes. There's been quite a few chances at Fir Park so far, but it's been pretty uneven match. Robbie, is there much happening over at Aberdeen?
No, not much from what I've seen so far. There was a good ball whipped in for the left-hand side, open net if he can get there, but he just misses the slide ball. But not much else happening, to be honest. It's been quite a quiet one so far.
I want to touch back on the scores yesterday. What was your standout result for you yesterday?
I mean, without sounding too basic, it's got to be Rangers beating Ross County 6-0. I mean, since the start of the season, I suppose we've always come on here and we've spoke about Rangers' problems. It feels like that's all it's been, speaking about the problems at Rangers. But you need to congratulate them on that result. I mean, that is outstanding. I get it. It is Ross County. I mean, you can say that if you want, but this Rangers team, since the start of the season, has been put down for having a lot of problems, and to come out and be as dominant in a game and have such a professional performance was only going to help them for obviously the big match next week. But I mean, if you look at some of the key players for Rangers there, Matondo, I thought he was excellent. I thought Tom Lawrence was good. I thought Dethers was really clinical. So it was a real standout performance for me. But it feels a bit boring saying the Rangers game, I suppose. I mean, if you look at all three of the games that happened yesterday, they all had good things in their own right, and I'm sure we'll talk about them later. But for me, it needs to be Rangers.
Yeah, we'll move on to Rangers now. In terms of that, there was like a lot of people talk about Dessers and say he's not clinical enough. He's no the he misses a lot of chances, not Robin. But you need to say that if it wasn't for Dessers for the start of the season, Rangers would have been a whole lot more of a trouble than they already are. I feel like Dessers gets a hard time off the Rangers supporters.
Yeah, I mean, you can say what you want about Dessers, but he is still clinical. Like, I think the problem for Rangers fans with Dessers is how many chances he misses. You look at the sort of tight results that Rangers get, and they could have so much more, but the players miss a lot of chances. Which, look, every footballer misses a chance. That happens. It's just natural in the game. But I feel like for Rangers fans, it's a bit more about how many Dessers misses, and for how much he scores. I think he got over 25 last season. I might be wrong, but he scored a lot last season. And even he come into this season, had the start that he's had. I mean, look, he'll miss a lot more chances. There's no doubt about that. Every footballer does. I think he just gets a lot of harsh stick because how many chances he does miss. But he makes up for that because he scores in most games. So if you're a Rangers fan, I feel like you can only be happy with how well Dessers is doing right now because, again, he is scoring the goals. And another striker that we'll speak about is Danilo, and that's one that's come in. We've spoke about a couple of times that he's wanted to come in and get that chance. He came in and he got himself a goal, so that'll only help him as well. So I feel like if you're a Rangers fan, you've got to be relatively happy with how your strikers are doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Rangers, that'll give them a confidence boost heading into next week. But I would say that Ross County sometimes with the architects of their own downfall. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Ross County, but I think it was Ronan Hale that missed a good chance about 10 minutes on the clock. I mean, if that goes in, it could be a different game, I suppose. Obviously, last week against Dundee United, or the week before, sorry, they again looked decent. I mean, I feel like it was a game of two halves for both sides. Well, I thought Ross County were better in the first, but Dundee United edged it in the second. And I feel like for Ross County that look, I feel like from what we've seen so far in 3 games, every team looks like they could compete to stay up this season, and every team could push for top six and all that sort of stuff. It's that type of league this year where every team is good. So I feel like it's going to be a really challenging league. But Ross County again, they missed the chances. Ronan Hale had a couple himself. He looks really promising for them if they can find the net. But I agree for Ross County, they do miss a lot of sort of good chances.
Yeah, they do. And I just want to now talk to you about the other match for me yesterday that was a standout. It was a standout for me on Friday as well. Dundee went to Easter Road, and that game ended 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic result for Dundee going to Easter Road. It's not an easy place to go. Again, Hibs feel like another one where we've only come on and spoke about the problems Hibs are having with the manager and stuff. But again, Hibs threw it away. It's a game where you lose the early goal, which was a good goal. From Tiffany, I think it was.
Was
A well
it?
taken goal. Yeah, a well taken goal for him. But Hibs battled their way back into the game. I mean, the Boyle free kick, again, another good goal. And then Kieran Bowie, I'm sure that's one we'll be speaking about for weeks. He's looks like he could be a real clinical player for Hibs. But Hibs seem to find themselves in these good positions where, they're comfortable in points of the game and then it just gets completely swung away from them. And it happened again. You're 2-1 up at home. You just need to hang on to get your first league win of the season. And then Simon Murray comes along and ruins your day. But I thought that Hibs looked better. I don't think they looked good. I think they looked better at points. I think you can now sort of see what David Gray's trying to do. But again, there's still a lot of work to be done. Hibs will take on Kelly next, and that's another game at Rugby Park where it's going to be tough for them, and they could absolutely find themselves in another bit of bother because Kilmarnock had a team that we'll speak about later, and they are quite, but they're not in the best form either. So that's a really big game for both clubs. But look, you've got to credit Dundee because scoring 2 goals at Easter Road's not easy, and they done it. And I actually thought they looked decent. So a good point for Dundee, but Hibs again, they need to try and get that win and get going.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of this? Someone saying to us, if you scored every chance, it would be at Madrid. I think that's a good point. I've said that about Maeda as well. Maeda's great at pressing. He's great at crossing the ball, but if you were to rely on Maeda scoring chances, you'd be there all day. So I think it's a case of that those guys have found their where they're meant to be. I think they're in Scottish football for a particular reason, and that's it. I think sometimes obviously you're going to get great talents that are in Scottish football, like Matt O'Reilly, Bassey. You're obviously going to get these players that are going to be there. But what I would say is you're also going to get players that will be in Celtic. Celtic and Rangers is a place that they will stay for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got it spot on there. I mean, if he scored every chance, yes, it would. It wouldn't be in Scottish football, and that's the reason it is. It doesn't score every chance, and you just need to look at the players that have moved on. If we look at Bassey and now Miovski, you look at O'Reilly going to the Premier League. That's the reason they're moving on because they're good enough to take that step up. And I'm not saying by any means, by the way, that Dessers isn't ready for the step up. I mean, I'm sure if it went to a team that's good enough, they could still fire the goals in. But give him another couple of seasons and he'll probably get a good move. And that's what the Scottish team sort of do. They build the players up and then move them on to bigger things. And that is, I think you're spot on there. That is a really good point. That if they were scoring every week, they would be at bigger clubs, and that's what the Scottish League's not going to have that type of player in it for very long. So, I agree with the point that if he did score every week, he wouldn't be in Scottish football anymore.
Yeah, I just want to ask you about Dundee. I think Dundee's an interesting one because I think if they can get through the next 7 days and don't lose any players, I think they could have a great season. But I think Dundee could possibly be losing quite a few players.
Yeah, I mean, for Dundee, and I think they'll be looking to keep a hold of their best players because that's what you want to do. But I think they'll be looking to add. I mean, I read an article earlier that they're apparently looking to bring Ronaldinho's son into the club. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, for them, I'm sure it'd be good. But I think if you're Dundee, you need to look ahead to the season. I mean, they've been fantastic so far. Obviously, the players next week can show only be an absolutely massive match. So I think if you're Dundee, you're looking very, very positive. But you need to try and hold on to the key players, or else you could find yourself struggling this season. But look, if Dundee can keep a hold of their best players and even add some quality, I mean, they could be flying up at the top 5, top 4 again. So it could be positive for Dundee, but we'll need to see how the rest of the week goes.
Sorry, Robbie, I need to jump in. There's been a goal at Fir Park, a great ball in by Motherwell, and a great header. It's 1-0 to Motherwell.
Oh, Graham's not going to be happy. Oh, and there's a goal at Pittodrie, by the way. Aberdeen have just whipped a ball in from the left-hand side, and the strikers headed it into the back of the net. 1-0 Aberdeen here as well.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie, Motherwell will be knocking on the door. Craig Gordon made an outrageous save about 2 minutes before that. Then the man of the moment, we've been speaking about him all summer. He whips a great ball in and a great header. It's 1-0 Motherwell.
That is a big result. You know, Graham's come on multiple times and spoke about that back three, and I said it to him when the back three get announced today that I think Hearts will struggle, and now they find themselves 1-0 down. Naismith's going to come under bundles of pressure. But aye, that's a brilliant result for Motherwell. They need to keep adding to it now, and I think the next goal was so crucial in that game. But the way you just described that goal, it almost feels like the same in this game. They pick it up on the left-hand side, a nice ball into the box and a nice header. Really well worked goal. And Kilmarnock, again, they are another team that's struggling as well. So it's good to see these sort of, the Motherwells and, teams like that picking up the decent results against, your Hearts and stuff, because they could just look and go, it could be an easy Hearts win, but it's not. And that's good to see sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, here come Motherwell again. Yeah, I mean, I want to go on to the other team in Dundee yesterday. What do you make of that game against St Johnstone?
Well, I mean, how many chances does St Johnstone need to win a game? I mean, obviously, Sports Team will show you the sort of best highlights, but it really was all St Johnstone for a lot of that game. St Johnstone had chance after chance. I think Sidibe had about a million chances. Obviously, he ends up getting sent off. But I mean, St Johnstone couldn't ask for many more chances to win the game. And two of the goals, I mean, at the second one especially, I don't know, I still don't know what the goalkeeper's trying to do coming out for a cross like that. If you're coming out for a cross, Ricky, I mean, I get it's tough. If you ask any goalkeeper, they'll probably say the hardest part about their job is coming out to collect a ball from whether it be a throw in or a corner. But if you're coming out for a cross, you need to get to it. And he's just sort of came out probably knowing that it was 50-50 who was going to get it, and he ends up doesn't, and it costs St Johnstone. So I think St Johnstone for the last couple of weeks, I think it's been real positive. There's been real positives to take for every one of the games, but you need to start being a bit critical. And the fact they missed so many chances in the game, it was only going to be punished by Dundee United. And fair play to Goodwin, he's started off his season back in the Premiership wonderfully. I think it's 2 draws and a win now. So that's a really good start for them.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about Jim Goodwin. What do you make about him? Because I said this before, but I think people can be critical of him, but I think he's okay. I think he's found his level at Dundee United as well.
I think so. I mean, when he first left us, to obviously go and take the Aberdeen job, at the time when he left us, I mean, we had just come off the back of, obviously, the sort of lockdown season, if you will. It just got us to 2 semi-finals. Unfortunately, didn't manage to get to the final, but it was sort of building something at the club, and I think you could see that. But then he moves on to Aberdeen, and I just feel like it was a bit too early for him. People need to remember, if you're going to criticise Goodwin, he's still a very, very young manager in terms of the age that managers usually are sort of, appearing at. But he is still a very, very young manager, and he's still got a lot to learn. But he's found his level at Dundee now. He had a season in the Championship where, he probably had the outright favourite team to win it. He did struggle a bit at points, but he managed to get the job done, and now he's in the Premiership. He's actually built something at Dundee United. I mean, I don't think he'll be rushing away to a bigger job like he did at us anytime soon. I mean, I think he's more than happy to stay at Dundee United, and he's building something good there, obviously beating us in the Cup as well. He's building something really good, so I think for anyone giving him stick, just give him time. He's still a young manager. You can see he's getting his rewards now, because that is a very, very decent Dundee United team.
Yeah, obviously, Robbie, we're on until 4 o'clock, so anybody get their point of view in before we go off air. But I want to bring up this point, Robbie.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that, Robbie? Because I think it's spot on in terms of like even you look at Hearts today, Motherwell look as if they're playing really well. So I think the European football definitely does take its toll on teams.
Yeah, I mean, we're only 3 game weeks into the season, and already, there's injuries galore, especially at our team. I mean, we have had multiple players out already, and it's only been a few weeks, so it just shows you how tough it is. And full credit to Rangers and Celtic, because you don't realise until you're in the competition just how tough it actually is to compete. I mean, they first the Sunday games with the killer, and you're seeing the effects with all 3 teams. The Kelly are currently losing, Hearts are currently losing, and we lost earlier, so with these Thursday Sunday games, it's not easy to keep your team in fit shape for every game. But I feel like for some teams, especially, I mean, in our case, it was just for that first time about being there, having the experience, taking on a big team. I mean, Bran are a fantastic team. So I think when you look at that, for us, it's about the experience. But Robinson's made it very clear that we want to now go and compete, and to compete in Europe, we need to get back in. So it's going to be an interesting season. But I completely agree with that point. We don't realise how tough it is, and that only makes it more impressive for Celtic and Rangers that they are. The records recently in the Champions League, especially for Celtic, might not be great, but they are competing in the league as well, and they managed to keep that form up, and that just shows you how good you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, Robbie, I want to ask you this. What see for you yesterday, Robbie? Do you think there was a standout score elsewhere in Scotland in the Championship, League One, League Two?
Oh, to be honest, I'm not too sure on the results, but I will say I seen Ayr United won again. That's absolutely brilliant. I love seeing their games and the work that Scott Brown's doing. It's really, really good for them. So I think he needs to keep that up. And I believe they did win yesterday. I seen they were winning at some point. I'm not sure if they finished the game with a win, but he's building something really good there.
Yeah, they did win yesterday. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be intriguing, the Championship this year, because you've got so many teams. Falkirk won again. They won 2-1 to beat Partick Thistle. So yeah, I think Falkirk are going to be interesting as well, Robbie. So it's got all the makings of a great Championship race.
Yeah, 100%. I think when we had the Falkirk fan on last week or the week before, he was saying, this is a Championship season where there's no outright favourite to win it. Dundee United are now out of the league. Livingston have dropped down. Livingston, I don't think you can say are outright favourites to win this. I think it's a very, very open league, so it really could go anyway, I think.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Robbie, because I know it might be early on the season, but I think Aberdeen are looking best placed for this third place. I know Hearts have got Shankland and stuff like that, and they're playing okay, but I feel like because of I think somebody mentioned it earlier in the show that because they're playing every week Thursday to Sunday, and they'll hope to progress as well because it brings more money into Scottish football, and obviously to Tynecastle. But I want to ask you, do you think Aberdeen have got a genuine chance of getting third place?
Well, I think 100%. I mean, it's again a good start today. Kilmarnock just had to sub off David Watson. I think he's picked up a knock. But back onto your point, I mean, Aberdeen, look, I think when you look at the Neil Warnock stuff and what happened last season, there's no doubt that, I mean, I said it at points last season as well, Aberdeen have a very, very capable squad. They've got a very good squad. Obviously, Thielens came in, added some additions to it, and it looks like a squad that could compete for third easily. I mean, they just look so comfortable right now. They're, just passing it and knocking it about. And I think Thielens only been a good thing for Aberdeen and Scottish football. It brings another manager in, and it's another manager that we've not really seen before. So all credit to him, and he's got an Aberdeen team here that really could endanger Hearts for that third place. I mean, if Hearts keep up the form that they're on, they might not be in the third place race become later in the season because they are struggling right now. But I definitely think Aberdeen could push for third.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you about Scott Brown then, because you brought him up. Do you think it's great that to see a young Scottish manager and that the fact of his profile that he's doing really well? Because I think it's been a long time I think for a long time as well that we've sort of got used to the same names. If somebody gets sacked, then people like Craig Levein, Billy Dodds, people like that won't go into a job. But I think it's sort of a really good thing that we've now got a good new crop of managers that we can trust on.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Scott Brown, as I said, is doing a fantastic job at Ayr. I actually thought, I mean, a couple of years ago he was rumored to be joining us, so I just wonder how that might have looked at if that ever happened. But no, I think he's found a team that he's going to be at for a long time. He's very comfortable in, and he's building a team that could probably compete for the championship this season. So all credit needs to go to him. But as you said, it is good for getting these sort of fresh crops, if you will, of managers that are coming through. I mean, I think it's Reece McCabe is another one. He's a good young manager that's
Rich McCabe's a
probably,
great manager, but
yeah. So I mean,
the only thing is this season that he's not doing so well at Airdrie. That's maybe if a big job comes up, maybe he might think to himself, right, I've done probably the best that I probably am able to. So maybe he's the next crop.
yeah, I think so. So I mean, like for managers like Harry Brown, I mean, it's good that although McCabe might not be getting on well right now, he is still a good manager. So it's good to see, and it's good to see change. And as we just spoke about feeling there, that's another fresh set of eyes on Scottish football. And again, it's not gone back round because I mean Aberdeen could have went anywhere. You couldn't get much worse than Warnock. So I mean, I suppose wherever they went was going to be an improvement, but it's good that they've got that type of manager in that it's new to the game and it's really getting on well.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Stuart Kettlewell because he's somebody that has really got a great eye for a player. What do you make of Tony Watt being back at Motherwell?
Yeah, I mean for Tony Watt, I think he's just about covered every patch of grass and every Premiership team at this point. I mean, he has literally been everywhere. So for Kettlewell, I mean, look, I really like Kettlewell. I said when Motherwell were going through quite a bad run that stick with him and he will bring you good results because I think he is a brilliant manager. And he does have a good eye for the player. I mean, the business that Motherwell have done in the most recent years, with the Theo Bale one, I mean, that's a terrific bit of business selling him on for a good chunk of money. So for Motherwell, Kettlewell has a good formula that he's doing with his scouting and it's working. And I mean, I think for Motherwell, it was always going to be this season, give him time and he will get good results because, I mean, if you look right now, he's beating a Hearts team was arguably at the start of the season, moved on for third. So Kettlewell, I really like Kettlewell. I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah, and obviously, I think it's tomorrow we'll find out Steve Clarke's squad for the Poland and Portugal matches. Do you think there'll be any surprises in Steve Clarke's squad?
I mean, it's always tough to tell with Clarke what he's going to do because we've spoke so much on this show about, give the young players a chance in these games to get the experience in. Could we see a Lennon Miller? Could we see Watson? Could we see O'Hara? Us? I mean, there's so many things that Clarke could do. I'm not sure if he's going to do it, but I mean, he's got to bring in another midfielder, and I really don't know who that's going to be because obviously we're going to have now McGregor's dropped out, so we need another midfield body in there. So it'll be interesting to see who he picks.
I'll tell you who it'll be. It'll be Connor Barron.
Aye.
It'll be Connor Barron.
Aye, that makes sense actually, but I just love him to be a wee bit more adventurous with his picks and pick more players to get the experience instead of going with that same group of players that he knows.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because as much as I enjoy seeing Connor Barron do well, I do think that people like David Watson and Muller at Motherwell, that's a guy that if he was in Spain, he would be in the top team right now. He'd be playing. But in Scotland, we go, we need to give him 4 or 5 years to really bed in and find his feet. Well,
That's always been a problem, I feel.
And I think that was one of the things that the SFA are talking about on Tuesday when they brought out that statement. But I also do feel like they need to actually be able to go, right, well, are these guys ever going to get a platform? Because there's no, I'm sure David Watson and the guy from Motherwell, they know that they are capable to step up, and the only way you're going to know that you're capable is if uh, as if you're doing it weekend after weekend, and also you're only going to prove to yourself once you finally get that opportunity.
Exactly, and I mean, you need to look at the current Scotland team. Look, we've got a midfield where we've got John McGinn, Scott McTominay, really. Obviously Ferguson sort of coming up, but these are some of the players that, they aren't going to be around forever. It's only going to be a matter of a few years before some of them start to, say, look, I've had enough international wise, and fair play to them, they've been good servants. But if you're Steve Clarke, you need to look and go, look, some of these players aren't going to be around forever. Bring up the fresh talent and let them play in some games and let them get, the game time that they need, and start to experience what it's like to be in a Scotland camp, because soon enough we aren't going to have McGinn and we aren't going to have McTominay, and we're going to need to rely on these guys. And if they're not ready, we are going to struggle.
I think that's a great point you make, that bringing these guys in right now, because then like the likes of Lennon Miller, David Watson, they can really benefit from being around John McGinn and saying, right, how can I become a good Scotland player? How can I deal with the pressure? Because I'm sure John McGinn, over his first few opportunities, I'm sure he really was talking to the senior pros. And I think that's, with no disrespect to John McGinn, I think now he is a senior pro.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. You just need to, like, if we keep getting these guys like McGregor and got them out the team and gone, I've had enough now. It's going to get to a point where these guys aren't going to be able to come and speak to the sort of senior pros, because I mean, get them in the now. Like, obviously Ben Doak will be one that at Liverpool's constantly speaking to Robertson about what he needs to do to get in this team. But if you look at your Millers and Watsons, get them up and get them speaking to the guys like McGinn and Robertson and find out, what it's really going to take for them to break into the Scotland team. Because if Robertson and stuff drop out, then they're going to have no one to sort of mentor them, and it's only going to get more difficult for them. So bring them up just now and, get that experience for them.
I think that's a great point you make. Because if you never give these guys the opportunity, they're never going to be able to prove to Steve Clarke or prove to the nation that they're strong enough to handle the the actual the pressure of playing with Scotland.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you just need to look at the last international tournament. We had guys in there that were so experienced, but I feel like it's safe to say every Scotland fan was let down in some respects with how, especially the three games went. I mean, I definitely think we could have done a lot better, but I mean, again, it begs the question. We're bringing a guy who's young-ish and Tommy Conway, and it gets absolutely 0 minutes. In the last game, we should just be going, right, come on the pitch, see what difference you can make, and I feel like if we're going to have Watson and Miller in the team, which I don't think we'll get both yet, but if we have one of them, if we're playing against Poland or anyone, just fling them on for even if it's the last 10 minutes, and just let them go and experience what it's like to play with Scotland, and it'll only help them and help the development for the future of Scotland.
Yeah, and I think in terms of like Scotland in general, I think it's about time we actually brought through young players.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, looking at my club, I think I said it last week that we have players in here, that there is players in each club. I know Michael was one that was speaking about, obviously, the lack of players coming through, but I think we can all say with the clubs that we support that there is youth players in there. I mean, you look at us, we've got Ethan Sutherland and Fraser Taylor, they're the two big ones. I mean, we've got Kieran Orford, Lewis Jameson's youngish. I don't think he's classified as a young player anymore, but what I'm saying is, in every club, you know, there is the guys there, and I don't necessarily think it's a problem of there isn't anyone coming through. There's not anyone being given a chance that is coming through to go and shine, and that is the problem.
I mean, Robbie, obviously after the Euros, people were talking about, do we stay with Steve Cotton? Do we go with, do we speak to David Moyes? What, after the SSL, are you happy with Steve Clark? Are you now thinking, still after 2 months after the Euros, are you still thinking, right, well, Steve Clark needs to be replaced?
I mean, like, listen, 2 months ago after the Euros, I was firmly on the get Steve Clarke out and bring someone else in for the future of Scotland. But look, it's always a tough one because who do you replace him with? I mean, at bar the obvious sort of David Moyes, is there really anyone else that's, going to fancy taking this job? And I think for what Clark's done, I believe Mikey was one on here being very passionate and saying that, you know, give Clark time and ask him the questions. And I think that's the big thing that I said, that we need to start asking Clark the questions, bring him in. Is he going to change the way he plays? Because it isn't good enough and it isn't working in the big tournaments. It's all well and good getting there. And I think the one thing, we could have had debates about for hours was, but it's all fine getting there. But as Scotland fans, I feel like some of us want more. And I think we should be asking for more with that team that we've got. There's no doubt in my mind that we can compete at these tournaments. I mean, Albania competed at the Euros, so I think it just shows you that we can definitely compete. But you need to ask a lot of questions: is it going to change these ways? Because it's not working.
I think we do want more, and I think in terms of that, I think me, Graham, and Michael were talking during the Euros about James Forrest. He spoke about it's great to get James Forrest back in the squad. It's great to see him playing so well. Well, if it's great to see James Forrest playing so well, then you should play him. That final match. If we would have got 3 points out of that, we would have, Scotland would have been through to the last 16. Now I'm not saying we'd have beat the potential champions in Spain. But what I'm saying is it's still good. It's still a good achievement to get to the last 16.
100%. I mean, Forest is one. You need to just look at Shankland as well. I mean, I don't know. I've lost count of how many times Graham was on the show during the Euros speaking about Shankland not getting minutes here and there. I mean, it was basically every week, but he had a good point. Shankland was one top goal scorer in Scotland, and he wasn't even getting a sniff in many of the games. So I think if you're Steve Clarke, look, you need to play these guys. You need to give them the minutes because these are the guys that are going to make an impact. And it's so frustrating as a Scotland fan, and it has been for years when you're watching these players week in, week out for the club doing well, and then it comes to Scotland and the international duty, and they don't even get a first pick, a sniff at the team. And I think, going forward, Clark needs to start being a bit more, I don't know what the word is to describe it, a bit more fear. Um, mm, He needs to just start, picking their players instead of picking his mates, if you want to call them his mates. Like, he needs to pick these guys that are going to come and make a difference instead of picking these players that he knows a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make, Robbie. Just to say that it's 1-0 to Motherwell at half time. Probably should be a few more, but Hearts with a few chances as well. That's a big 45 minutes for Stephen Naismith to try and turn it around, Robbie, because there will be pressure.
100%. And the first thing we will hear on Friday on the show, if Graham's on it, is no doubt what was Naismith doing last week. I mean, especially with a big match on Thursday coming up. And look, if Hearts lose this game and then lose on Thursday, alarm bells are going to be ringing for Naismith. And, with the squad that he's got, he needs to be doing better. And he knows that himself. So I think for Hearts, they need to try and build back into some sort of rhythm because right now they're completely out of it and they're lost. They're really, really lost.
Yeah. How are we getting on down in Pataudry? Is it
We
still
are
one-
just still 1-0 to Aberdeen. We're just about reaching half time. Not much has happened since the goal, to be honest. As I said earlier, I believe Watson had to go off with a knock. So apart from that, it's been relatively quiet. It looks like Aberdeen will go into half time, 1-0 up.
Yeah, I want to ask you in terms of the overall transfer window, right? Because we'll be back on Friday between 5 and 7 with Michael, Graham, Robbie, and everybody else. But who do you think will be the busiest team between Monday and Friday? Who do you think it'll be?
It's got to be Rangers. Look, Rangers, for how much we spoke earlier in the show about how well they done yesterday, there's a lot needing done. And there's a lot even needing done before we even touch Celtic because at the weekend, if Rangers go into that game with the squad that they have now, there's no doubt in my mind that Celtic will pick up the win. And I think if you're Clermont and Rangers, you need to look at the team and go, there's still about maybe 3 or 4 positions here that we need to upgrade. So I think between now and Friday, the busiest two will probably be Rangers and Celtic because you start noticing that they need to try and get the business in. And if we get to Friday and Rangers haven't made more than 2 signings, the fans will start getting worried again. Again, with a big match next Sunday, there's not much time for Rangers and they need to try and move quickly.
I think you're saying there about the fact that um, Rangers need a few players, but if you look at the overall squad from like this season to what Steven Gerrard had a couple of years, I think the Rangers squad overall is not that great, to be honest, Robbie.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of work needing done with the Rangers squad, and there's just players there that seem like they don't want to be there anymore. And if they don't, Rangers need to try and move them on. But we'll speak about obviously Celtic and their squad. We've spoke about it. They probably still need a couple of signings in the door, but for different reasons. If you look at that Celtic team, they look really, really confident. Every player looks like they want to play with the club. And then you go to the other side and you look at Rangers. Rangers look like they do not want to be, some of the players don't want to be there and they're struggling and they need more quality. And I think that's the main difference. Celtic have the quality and Rangers need the quality.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Aberdeen because obviously they've signed Nesbitt from Millwall. So has he started this afternoon, Robbie?
No, I don't believe Kevin started. I'm actually just watching. There's a interview at half time with him. I don't believe he started. I think he might be on the bench. But that again, that's a positive signing for Aberdeen. I mean, like I seen people doubting it when it first got announced, but you need to remember Nisbet's best spell and probably in football was when he was at Hibs. I mean, he knows the league very well. So for Aberdeen, that's a no-brainer. And that's a really, really good signing, I think, for Aberdeen.
Do you think that potentially they could dip into the market because they got a 8 million package for Miovski, so there's a wee bit of spare change there?
I think for feeling, I mean, he's got to be relatively happy with the team at the moment. I mean, I don't think he'd want to add too much now, but for feeling, I feel like he's a bit like Robinson. If there's a signing there to make, he will only make it if he thinks it's right. So I think for Aberdeen fans, they'll be more than happy with the team, especially with the way they're playing right now. But again, if there's probably a player there, Phelan will probably take it, and he's got every right to. I mean, as you said, they just get that big money cash in the door. So it's only good for Aberdeen, and I think that I think he will only make signings if he thinks it's going to benefit the team.
Yeah, Robbie, I want to ask you about in terms we'll finish off with Celtic. Celtic, right? But I think Brendan Rodgers is in a weird kind of place because he knows that this team is well capable to win the Scottish Premiership, probably win the Scottish Cup. But for Celtic wanting to do well in Europe, I'm sure there's many Celtic fans watching, but I'm sure Brendan Rodgers wants to be in Europe because I don't think he's come back up here to win Scottish Premierships. No disrespect to the Scottish League, but I think he's come back up to win Scottish Leagues. But also, I think that he wants to try and do the best that he possibly can for Scottish football and European football. Because how many times we spoke about Motherwell, Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Aberdeen, Celtic, Rangers not doing themselves too well in Europe and not doing Scotland well either.
I mean, it's been a big issue for Scotland and Europe. I mean, some of the results over the years have been absolutely shocking. Again, if Kilmarnock didn't get through that last round, I mean, that would have been another one that was labelled as embarrassing. You just need to look at Motherwell's result against Sligo Rovers a couple of years ago. That was a bad one. I think that there is definitely, Scotland are underperforming in Europe. I think we can say that. I don't think it helps with these Thursday Sunday games. And I know Kilmarnock did ask for this game that's being played right now to be postponed. Um, Obviously, I had a big match next week, but teams haven't competed enough, and bar the sort of Rangers good Europa League run where they unfortunately didn't win it for them. There hasn't been much success in Europe, and I think Rodgers, when he came back up here, would have known that, and it probably was the first thing on his mind. How can I build this team to compete in Europe? Because right now, that Celtic team can't compete in Europe. I don't think. I think you need more quality in there to be able to, especially losing a big quality player like O'Reilly. So I think for Rodgers, it's definitely something that he's going to be working on. But I think you're right. I don't think he's up here just to win leagues and cups. He can do that. He knows he can do that, and he probably will. He probably will win most of the trophies in domestically anyway this season. It's about how he builds that team to compete in Europe.
Yeah, I want to finally ask you about McGregor because I don't know, Robbie, but I want to get your opinion on it. Do you think that because he's left Scotland, he's kind of freed himself up a little bit?
I think so, but McGregor, look, he was a brilliant servant to Scotland, but I think he made the right decision dropping down. I mean, I think it was you or Graham that said it, that it gives you a bit more longevity in your playing career for a club. He will get a probably extra a year at Celtic because he's not having to go on international duty. But I think McGregor's so smart, and the way he controls a game as Celtic captain is phenomenal. I mean, you just need to look at today. He was so controlling. I mean, Robinson spoke before the game that he wanted to put one man on McGregor. I'd barely seen a time during the game where McGregor was getting marked properly. I mean, he was just drifting in and out. Obviously, he gets himself another good goal. We got one at Easter Road as well. So I think for McGregor, he's playing with a lot more freedom. And I think it's only a good thing again for Rodgers that he is playing with that freedom.
Yeah, and I think in terms of Scottish football as well, we want to see Celtic and Rangers and all the other teams do well because it reflects really well on Scottish football.
100%. I mean, you just need to look at the other teams. I mean, Hearts, they've been ones that, it's good that they're guaranteed group stage, but we need them to go and do well. Kelly, obviously, they've got as far as they can go. I think I don't see them being able to pull the game back against Copenhagen, but even us, I think we got as far as we can go. I mean, the one thing I was thankful for is we didn't get put out to a result that's labelled as embarrassing. We faced a very, very tough team in SK Brann, and rightly so, get put out. So I think teams definitely start being a bit more competitive in Europe, but that will only come with, the more Miovski deals that go out the door, the more O'Reilly deals, the more money we get in, the more we can afford to compete. So I think it's just a slow progress, but we definitely need to try and be better.
Yeah, Robbie, just looking ahead to next weekend then. A big match, Celtic and Rangers. You spoke about the fact that you feel that it's a big week for Rangers in terms of getting players in. Who do you think will be the key players for Rangers next week if they are to get a result?
It's always a tough one. I mean, you need to look at the obvious. I mean, Dess is up front. You need him firing. You need to get him the goals. If you can't get that ball to Dessers, you have no chance. So he'll be a big one. You need the defence to be solid as well. I'm actually not sure who's going to be available by next week because, again, they could make another signing, but there's so many injuries happening right now to Rangers defence that it really could be any two pairings. So I think the defence will be big. Obviously, you need to just look at Tavernier to realise how big he's going to be in the game. So I think there's definitely a few players. Matondo's another one that could be really influential based on what we've seen against Ross County. So look, there's a few players that need to be on it. Every player needs to be on it. And if they're not, Celtic are going to punish you. And I think Celtic definitely will be the favourites going into this game. But it's an all fun. I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah, and just finally, Robbie, have you got a prediction for the two sides in Europe? Are you optimistic? Because I'm sure Graham will watch this on catch up once he's back from Fir Park. But are you feeling optimistic that Hearts might do a little turn in European football?
I think so. I think any of the two, it's more likely to be Hearts. I mean, look, Poulsen aren't a great side, and Hearts missed a few chances. So if Hearts can dominate well, and get an early goal to put themselves back into the tie. There's no doubt that they will, and I hope they do. But for the other tie in Europe, I just can't see Kilmarnock, unfortunately, pulling it against a Copenhagen team, which, look, I don't even think they were particularly impressive either in the first leg. I thought they were okay at times, but, they did get the goal, and then eventually the late on goal that sort of killed the tie off for the first leg. But look, I think Hearts can do it. I don't know if Kelly can.
Okay, Robbie, well, it was great to chat to you for this Sunday show of the Locker Room, and we'll see you back on transfer deadline day in Scottish football, and we'll also talk about the Paralympics that's happening this week in Paris. And a very good luck to Nigel, our producer, who's over there in Paris as well. Robbie, I just want to thank you for joining me.
No problem. Thank you so much for letting me come back on.
No problem, mate. I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, 100%.